Alright, so this is number 1. It says Raul is making a scale model of an airplane that has a wingspan of 44 feet. If Raul's scale model is 1/16 the size of the actual airplane, what is the wingspan of his model? So what's basically going on here is he has a toy, right? It's a toy, and it's 1/16 the size of the actual airplane. So that means if it is 1/16 the size, so let's say 1/16, then the real airplane is 1/44, right? So what we would have to do is divide 44 by 16, because we're going to try to figure out, it's only 1/16 of the size of it. So I think I actually wrote that wrong. 1 second, let me get rid of this. It should actually be 1/16 like we said. So 1/16 times the 44, which becomes 44/1, right? Because 44 is a whole number. When you turn it into a fraction, it becomes over 1. And then when you do that and you multiply across, you get 44/16, which is the same as 44 divided by 16. So when you do that, you should get your answer. Remember, you guys can use calculators on this, so it should be easy to figure that out. It's 44 divided by 16. Check which one of these is correct. All right, that's number 1. All right, number 2 says 2/3 of the students in Hannah's homeroom plan to do some volunteering this summer. If of these students, 3/5 plan to volunteer at the community center. So what fraction of the students in Hannah's homeroom plan to volunteer at the community center? So there's some fractions here, right? And it's kind of tricky to figure that out. So let's do an easier, like I'm going to pretend these numbers don't exist and just see if I can figure it out with numbers that are easier in my head. So let's say there's 16 kids and we're trying to figure out 1/4 of them, okay? So out of 16 kids, 1/4 are going to volunteer at the community center. I'm making up numbers right now, by the way. So if I have 16 and there's 1/4 going to volunteer at the community center, what would I do to figure out how much 1/4 of 16 is? I would just multiply them, right? 16 times 1/4. And I'd get 16/4. Right? I would get 16/4. And I would divide and just get 4. So I know my answer would be 4. So what I'm doing the same thing, except that I don't have 16, I don't have 1/4, but I do have 2/3, right? It tells me 2/3 of the students. That's a fraction I'm going to have to do, and it's 3/5. So I'm just going to say 2/3 times 3/5, right? That's how we get our answer here. So I am going to multiply those together. And when I do, I get one of these answers. Remember, you can either multiply across 2/3, 2 times 3 equals 6. Oh, that's not supposed to be a minus sign. Let me undo that. So 2 times 3 equals 6. And then I can multiply across here on the bottom. And I get 6/15, right? So when I do that, I can simplify this. They're both divisible by 3. So divide them both by 3 and you should have your answer. Or you could have, even before I got here and multiplied across, I could have cross-canceled, right? That's what I always love doing and love telling you guys to do that. So let me see here. Can I cross-cancel 3 and 3? I sure can, right? This becomes 1 now. And this becomes 1, right? Because I can take away 3 from both of these. That's how we cross-cancel. And now you multiply across. What's 2 times 1? Well, that's 2. What's 1 times 5? That's 5. There you go. You should have your answer there. This is number 3. It says, which point on the number line is closest to the product of the numbers graph that points R and T? So, big key word here, it says product. Product means that I'm multiplying, right? There's a few things we have to do here. So if I'm going from 0 to 1, I need to count how many of these little spaces there are to see how many, or what these numbers are at. So if I'm counting, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? That means 1, 2, 3, 4. So this would be 4/10, right? Because these are all divided by 10. There's 10 sections in between 0 and 1. So now it's asking us for the product at points R and T. So R is right here. So let's see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that means it's 7 out of 10, right? And then the second number, because it says R and T, is T, which is going to be 9 out of 10, right? If I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is 9/10. And if I'm looking for product, that means I'm multiplying these together. And when I do that, I would get 7 times 9 equals 63, right? 63 is on top, and 10 times 10 equals 100. Okay, so there's my fraction here. If we're still looking at, the tenths here, because we're doing, this is divided by 10, right? Or 10 sections. So let's see, I can't really simplify this, but I can make this, if I turn this into 10, because that's what we're working with, I would divide by 10, right? So if I divide this by 10, I'm going to divide this by 10. And I would get 6.3 over 10. So what would 6.3 be? Well, it would be at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 0.3 would be like in between Q and R, right? But it's closest to Q. And it's asking us which number line is closest to. So 6.3 would be at like almost 6.5, right? Which is right here. Not quite 7, not quite 6, but it's closer to Q than it is R. So that's how I get point Q. That was a tough question. That's why I wanted to work it out for you guys. That is one way to do it. You also could have done 0.7 times 0.9, and then you would have got your answer too. Same idea. Okay. That is number 3. Yeah, the first 3 were tough. I'm just going to do some of the harder ones with you guys. So this next one says, which quadrant does point A lie on a coordinate plane? Well, remember our big C. If we write it down, our coordinate plane, right? Let's do it here. You start here and you go here. So that means this is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and this last one is quadrant 4. So this is important. You're going to have to know this for some other questions on here. So where is A? Is it in 1, 2, 3, or 4? Well, that should be easy now to figure out. All right, the expression d divided by t. So when you have a slash like that, that means divided by. So d divided by t can be used to find the average speed of an object that travels a distance, or d, in time, t. So what is the car's average speed if it travels 145 miles in 2.5 hours? So it told us already that d divided by t, right? So d over t is going to give us our average speed, which is what we're looking for. It's going to give us our answer. So what is d? Well, let's look up here and see if we can find what d is. It says d is distance. So isn't miles a distance? It sure is, right? And then it says t for time. So then I'm going to, sorry, I'm just going to put this in yellow. And our time is 2.5 hours, right? So that means I have 2.5 on the bottom, because that's what our time is, right? And 145 on top. That's how many miles we're going. So all I'm going to do is take 145 and divide by 2.5, and then you should have your answer here. All right, that's how you get the answer to this one. Use your calculators. You guys have them. If you want to go the extra step and just work it out, because you guys do know how to do this, without a calculator. You can do that too. It's good practice. All right, which of the following expressions is equivalent to 6 and then 5 plus 3x inside, right? 6 times the product, or I'm sorry, the sum of 5 plus 3x. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this right here, and I'm basically going to do our little eagle eye, right? And that's when we do the distribution method. When we, oh, let me put it too thick. I'm going to go here first, 6 times 5, and get a number. And then after that, I'm going to do 6 times 3x. So let's start it off. 6 times 5 equals 30, right? I bring my plus sign down, because I don't change anything there. And then I do 6 times whatever 3 is. 6 times 3, and then attach your x to it. And that's how we do this question. This next question looks scary, but it's not that bad, guys. It says, which of the following rational numbers represents a repeating decimal? So this is 25 divided by 48, 11 divided by 40, 7 divided by 32, and 3 divided by 25. So all you need to do is actually put 25 divided by 48, put it on a calculator, and see which one repeats. If you don't want to use a calculator and you can work it out, you can do that as well. But you're gonna work it out and keep seeing which one repeats. That's how we do this one. Same with 11 divided by 40. If it doesn't have a repeating decimal, that means a number that keeps going, right? If it's like 2.33333333333, that's a repeating decimal. If it just has 2.36 and it stops, that's not a repeating decimal. So that's what we're doing for this question. Figure out which one of these has a repeating decimal. All right, this one says, the top students in a distance throwing competition are shown in the table. How many yards did the winner of the competition throw the ball? Well, this should be easy to figure out, right? So who won the distance throwing competition? Let's look at for the biggest number. We have Ashley, Craig, Fernando, and Robert, right? 1 second. So once you find the winner, you're going to say, hey, wait a minute. You know, the answer isn't down here. There isn't a 162, 156, you know, none of these answers are here, right? And then that's when you notice, hey, this says yards and this says FT, which stands for feet, right? So now we actually have to think about how many yards or how many feet are there in 1 yard. Well, this is something we haven't really worked on in 6th grade, but you guys learned in 5th, maybe even 4th, is that for every 3 feet, it equals 1 yard, okay? Which means that whatever my answer is, how many yards did the winner of the competition throw the ball? Well, I'm going to take 175, right? Because that's who won. That's the biggest number here. And divide it by 3. And then you'll have your answer, right? Because this is in feet. And we're not looking for feet. We're looking for yards. So that's how we're going to figure out our answer. 175 divided by 3. And it's going to be one of these bad boys. All right. All right, now this is the kindergarten teacher has 22.5 cups of juice to be divided equally among her students. If each student is to receive 1 1/4 cups of juice, how many students are there? Well, all I'm going to take is this number right here, 22.5 cups of juice. And since they're dividing, I'm just going to divide it, right? Equally among her students. Each student's going to get this. So how many students are there? Well, we're just going to do 22.5 cups divided by 1 1/4, right? And that's how we're going to find our answer. The only problem is when we have 22.5, that's in a fraction, right? So I need to turn it into a mixed number. I'm sorry, it's in a mixed number. So I need to turn it into an improper fraction. So you guys remember how to do that? Let me see, I have 1/2, right? How we do that is we take the bottom number, our denominator, and multiply by our whole number. So we're going this way, right? So 2 times 22 equals 44. And then you add the top number. So this is add, this is multiply. So I get 44 plus 1, which equals 45. And then you keep your denominator the same. In this case, it's 2. So you would do the same thing on the other section. We're going to divide by 1 1/4, right? So let's turn 1 1/4 into an improper fraction. I'm going to go here, 4 times 1 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. And then we're going to say over 4. Whoa, doesn't look very pretty. And now we have a fraction that we can actually multiply and divide by, right? The only difference is, or the issue here, is that we're dividing, which means we keep our first fraction the same. So we're going to have 45 divided by 2. Or 45 over 2. And I'm going to change this to multiplication now, right? And then I flip my second fraction. So I have 4 over 5. Now, what I love to do again is cross cancel. And there's opportunities here where I can, because 5 goes into 45, right? I can divide both these numbers by 5. So let's do that. It's like we're simplifying a little ahead of time because it gets easier. So I can divide both these numbers by 5. I know that because they both end in 5. So that means this is 1, and 45 divided by 5 equals 9. So now I'm working with smaller numbers. Can I cross cancel here? Let me see here. I have 2 and 4. Oh, 2 goes into 4, right? So that means I divide 2 by 2, and I get 1. And 4 divided by 2 equals 2. So now I can just multiply across. 9 times 2 equals 18. 1 times 1 equals 1. When I work that out, I get 18. And there's my answer. Now, a lot of these word problems that have these fractions in them, you're doing the same thing. Make sure you turn them into an improper fraction first, and then you can figure out the rest of the problem. All right, I think I'm going to stop there. If you guys need more help, please join a Zoom session or leave a comment, and we'll try to help you guys as best we can. Have a good one. Mr. Farina, out.